11-14. 8. 43-48 and even to resurrect the dead Mount 9. 23-25. Lu 7. 14, 15. Joe 11. 39-44 gave proof that he was God's appointed means for freeing mankind from sin and its penalty. Compare Mr. 2. 5-12. Far superior to the manna Israel ate in the wilderness, Jesus was the true bread from heaven, the bread of life. Joe 6. 31-35, 48-51 He brought, not literal water from a rock, but living water, the water of life. Joe 7. 37, 38. Re 22. 17. Compare Joe 4. 13, 14. His powerful works were also portents of other blessings due to come by his kingly rule. Whereas Elisha had fed 100 men with only 20 loaves and some grain, Jesus fed thousands with far less. 2 Kai 4. 42-44. Mount 14. 19-21. 15. 32-38 Moses and Elisha had made bitter or poisoned water sweet. Jesus converted ordinary water into fine wine, to contribute to the relaxing enjoyment of a marriage feast. Acts 15. 22-25. 2 Kai 2. 21, 22. Joe 2. 1-11 His rule therefore would certainly bring freedom from hunger to all of his subjects, bring a pleasant banquet for all peoples. Isra 25. 6 His ability to make men's work abundantly productive, as with regard to his disciples' fishing efforts, assured that, under his kingdom's blessing, men would not be reduced to barely eking out a living at a mere subsistence level. U 5. 4-9. Compare Joe 21. 3-7. More important, these things were all related to spiritual matters. As Jesus brought spiritual sight, speech, and health to the spiritually blind, dumb, and ailing, he also brought and assured the enjoyment of spiritual food and drink in abundance, and guaranteed the productiveness of his disciples' ministry. Compare Luke 5. 10, 11. Joe 6. 35, 36. His miraculously satisfying people's physical needs on certain occasions was primarily to strengthen faith. Such things were never the end in themselves. Compare Joe 6. 25-27. The kingdom and God's righteousness, not food and drink, were to be sought first. Mount 6. 31-33 Jesus set the example in this by his refusal to change stones into bread for himself. Mount 4. 1-3. Spiritual liberation. The nation of Israel had known mighty warriors, but God's power through his Son was aimed at greater enemies than mere human militarists. Jesus was the liberator. Luke 1. 69-74 providing the way to freedom from the chief source of oppression, Satan and his demons. Heb 2. 14, 15 Not only did Jesus personally free many from demonic obsession. Luke 4. 33-36 but by his powerful words of truth he opened wide the gates to freedom for those wishing to cast off the oppressive burdens and slavery that false religion had imposed on them. Mount 23. 4. Luke 4. 18. Joe 8. 31, 32 By his own faithful, integrity-keeping course he conquered, not just a city or an empire, but the world. Joe 14. 30. 16. 33. Relative importance of miraculous acts. Although Jesus laid principal stress on the truths he proclaimed, he nevertheless showed the relative importance of his powerful works, regularly calling attention to them as authenticating his commission. And o textui acute mirita longo, Praetorian Guard 665, 7. 19, 20. 21. 42, 43. Luke 13. 6-9. Jesus refused to engage in purposeless theatrics as suggested by Satan. When he walked over water, it was because he was going somewhere with no transportation at hand at that late hour, something quite different from jumping off a temple battlement like a potential suicide. Mount 4. 5-7. Mr. 6. 45-50 The wrongly motivated curiosity of Herod was left unsatisfied when Jesus refused to put on any performance for him. Luke 23. 8 Jesus earlier refused to cause a sign from heaven at the request of Pharisees and Sadducees, evidently because they sought such, not to strengthen their faith in the fulfillment of God's word, but to obviate the need of such faith. Their motive was bad. Mount 16. 1-4. Compare 15. 1-6. 22. 23, 29. Similarly, the lack of faith in Nazareth kept him from performing many powerful works there, certainly not because his source of power was insufficient, but because the circumstances did not warrant it, did not allow for it. Divine power was not to be wasted on unreceptive skeptics. Mr. 6. 1-6. Compare Mount 10. 14. Luke 16. 29-31. That the faith of others was not an absolute essential for Jesus to perform miraculous acts can be seen